Hello, welcome. So I finally managed to get a left side of the Shimano XT M095 3-speed shifter. This one's, I think, brand new. At least I can see it's never been used. It's even got the little rubber cap here, just like on the XTR shifters, and it still has its hood. So today we're going to rebuild this shifter. I've also got another video of a DX shifter, the M095. It's exactly the same pretty much, except for the matte finish on the other shifter, and this one's a little bit different. So let's begin. So to facilitate the rebuild, I've already taken out the cable. We're going to take off this cover underneath. So before you begin, make sure there's no more tension in that spring by releasing it using the lever. We're going to undo the nut here on the top with a number 10. This will be clockwise to take off. Underneath that there's a plate to take off as well, so we'll do that. There's that spring to remove, the return spring for the lever. Underneath that there's a ring. We can now take off that lever. Underneath that there's a plastic nylon type of bushing. Another spacer, bushing. Now here we're going to have a clip to take off. There's a plate here that can now be removed. There's a spring. Whoops. We can now remove the second lever. There's a seal there. So I just finished my morning coffee. We can continue. There's a spring on that pull. You can now take it off. Let's take off some of these parts. We can now take off that cover. Take off one of the pawls. And we can now take off the other one as well. We can now remove this completely. Here you have one of the sprockets. There's another bushing in between that. And here's one of the nylon parts, kind of a sprocket, and underneath there's the spring. So underneath here there's the pivot that can indeed be removed. And now you can pretty much take everything off, including this pivoting bolt. Underneath that pivoting bolt there's a small ring, small copper ring. There you go. Okay, and that's everything. Right, so this is my favourite part, as mine's already clean, so I don't need to do the whole process of removing the gunk on all the parts. I might add a little bit of grease, as I've obviously removed some. So it's time now to put it back together again. We're going to take that copper coloured spacer, bushing rather, and put it back underneath the pivot. That pivoting bolt has a specific way to slot it back in. It's pretty self-evident though. Now to facilitate the putting this back on, we're going to put the bolt underneath here to hold this in place, so it'll make it easier for us to put the parts on. Make this quicker, I'm just using any old spacer to, well, spacing in between, doesn't really matter as long as it's secured down. So the first thing you're going to be putting back on is the spring. So the spring, there's a tip that's kind of sticking out, and that's going to slot into the slit on that nylon part. and the other end of that spring is going to go on inside the hole that's nearest to the pivot. So I'm going to put this upside down to put it on. And you'll have a little bit of tension there, so you know you've properly put it inside. So we're going to put this part now in on top of the nylon part, and that sits firmly in place. On top of that was a bushing. We have the pawls. So the first pawl has that type of part that's sticking out, and we're going to put that on the pivot here on the top. And the second one. There's a spring that we need to put back on to the to that pawl. We're going to be tensioning that spring later on. We can now put the cover back onto the pod and the barrel as well to hold it in place. So underneath here is a very thin copper ring. You then have another one to put on. Push those all the way down. Finally, we're going to reinstall this part. So the little bit that's folded down, that's going to go towards the bottom part. So that's sitting on the top like that. And we're going to now need to put that spring and put it towards this little part that's sticking out right here. So the easiest way is to just get some sort of flat-headed screwdriver and try and aim to get it underneath. So there you go, it's latched onto that part just there. We're now going to put the clip back that holds down this plate. Use this to push it underneath. There you go. So now on top of that there's another bushing. There's this nylon plastic part that lays flat. We're now going to put the second lever in, so we need to make some room by pushing the sprocket out of the way. And that's going to go now onto the side there. I've put that in between the gap. Following is another ring on the top of this. We're going to put the return spring back into place for the lever, and so that kind of hook bit that's sticking out is going to go onto here, and the other end of the spring with a small little tip there going downwards, that's going to latch onto the lever around about there. And now we're going to need to pull this towards that part for it to hold in place. So holding that with your finger, you can just test to see if this is working. And finally we're going to put that part back on. Just kind of holds the spring flat down. And now the nut to secure everything down. You might want to put some thread locker if yours is old. So we're going to screw that anti-clockwise. We can now remove the bolt here at the back and install this back onto the brake lever combo. Where there's that part. So we're going to put the bolt back in. We can now install the cover back on. Let's check one more time that it's working. Yeah. Okay, so that's everything done. Working again like new. Hope this was informative and helpful towards your rebuilds. So thank you for listening, and until next time, peace out.